Welcome to Comic Book Wednesdays, a weekly service where we talk about comic books. Uh, we're your hosts. I'm Ian.
I'm
Howdy,
Shane.
I'm Al. Oh, go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
You're good.
If you enjoy our content, please subscribe and like. This week we'll be reading we read issues of Avengers by Jonathan Hickman. Again, we are leading our way up to Secret Wars.
Dun
So
dun
we'll
dun.
want to start with a recap. Shane, Al, you guys can kind of bounce off each other here.
All right, Shane, you want to start?
Sure. So this week we did Avengers 1 to 3, and this was written by Jonathan Hickman. And I'm just going to start with the first issue. The story itself really surprised me because it led into this really big, chaotic moment as it progresses through the three issues. Of course, art style, writing style are all done really, really well.
And honestly, for me, I wasn't a fan of the art style as much as the last set of books we read, but it was still
Okay.
really cool.
Yeah, the style's jarring. I mean, you go, it's a little bit more smooth than the new Avengers with the Illuminati, and it feels almost like cinematic. And then when
Mhm.
you jump to Avengers, I don't want to say it's blockier, but there's definitely a little bit more block to it. And then
Yeah,
like the
definitely.
saturation is not as like there. It feels like the colors are duller a little bit to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I felt like the storyline that they set up was really good as far as how they went from the progression of Tony and Steve starting this whole collaborative with a whole nother list of characters that we didn't get from New Avengers, which was really cool. It kind of broadens your spectrum of the characters that we're going to have and, you know, who all is going to take part, which I thought was really cool. And up into that moment that Shane mentioned, which you got a lot of really cool content there.
The symbolism, especially of the light and the dark, and with the Omega on his chest, you really get the sense of like these are creators,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they have a really twisted sense of what creation means, which I kind of like because everyone does that in a very unique way. But also, it's showing the duality of the two characters because you had the one who was very, nihilistic in their approaches, but yet they both had that perspective because even the Omega looking guy, whose name I'm spacing on, I apologize.
It's a really
Yeah,
strange name.
it is a hard to pronounce name in my opinion too, but
You do keep on talking. I'll look up his name.
yeah.
Oh, no worries, I appreciate it. He did have traits, and it showed that they were both created by this like galaxy force, and while simultaneously having this like Adam and Eve vibe for being these two creations that were going to go reshape the world, they also had this, duality of good and bad because they both exhibited those traits.
Yeah, and then to give clarification, they're created by the universe, and like when I say that, Marvel literally has a deity that is the universe incarnate. So we actually see like a reincarnation of this deity in the
Which
comics. Is
I like that she kind of not put fear into their eyes, but it was kind of like an oh shit moment for
Mm-hmm.
y-
the two villains s people.
Oh, their attitudes changed incredibly quickly when she showed up.
Yeah.
right. Well, they follow a hierarchy, and they respond to when the universe is telling them to do something, and literally, the universe was telling them to stop.
So I don't know about you guys, but I kind of didn't really yet quite see the connection between those two storylines,
There
which
really isn't.
I'm hoping that explores a little bit more as we get farther into the two sets of books. Just because I would like to see that crossover between comics and seeing how the one story affects the other. It'd be cool to see that, and you know I thought that it was really cool to see how, even though the Avengers didn't want this, or how it ended up being, they still were, they had their mindset set on what they were going to do, and it was going to happen either way, and
Yeah.
in their
Uh,
minds how shaping should happen.
Yeah, so just to comment on the first part of your statement, we will see a connection crossover. I know it happens. I don't know where and when, and the way that Hickman likes to write his stuff is it's a build, right? So like
Mhm.
you will slowly get to that point, but there is going to be a point where Cap remembers what happens to him. I mean, they already kind of teased it. I mean, the first issue, he's waking up and he's literally like, "Well, I had a bad dream or a nightmare," and he's flashing back to the last part of the new Avengers where the Illuminati is standing over him and they're erasing his memory. So Cap sees it as a bad dream at the moment, but he's going to realize that the Illuminati erased his memories. There will be that crossover, and of course, bigger even crossover. Because remember, we're building to Secret Wars, which is essentially the biggest Marvel crossover there is.
Right.
I imagine as we progress, we'll see characters like Doctor Doom get involved and things like that because they all have a very big role. And what's cool, I think, about this story is not only do we get to see the original Avengers, but we get to see how they expanded the roster. I mean, they add characters like Shang-Chi, Logan, Spider-Man, like just cool characters that you don't.
Sunspot and
Sunspot, yeah.
yeah,
God, there's so many of them.
yeah.
They literally
I
like
mean,
triple the
when
roster.
the scene where they were looking at the computer of characters to add, if you paid attention to that behind them, you could see a whole bunch of really cool characters that they were, you know, flashing towards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we're gonna see them, and I have the list of characters here. So the new additions are Wolverine, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Spider-Woman, who we haven't seen on the big screen yet, but I think is coming. She's pretty cool. We got Falcon, we got Shang-Chi, we have Sunspot, Cannonball, Manifold, which is that Manifold's the guy who can like
Transport from realm to realm.
right, he kind of literally folds reality on itself
Yeah,
so he can like teleport, which reminds me a lot of Cloak. So it's interesting that they used Manifold and not Cloak.
yeah.
Then we have Smasher, Captain Universe is who the universe entity that we're talking about, and then Hyperion, who is
Which I
essentially
thought Hyperion was like a more of a villain than
I
a hero in the MCU, but
I think
I'm
he's
going off very little what I know.
so he definitely starts off as a villain. He transitions into more of an anti-hero, and now he's on the Avengers. And I think they even reference this in the book that they're trying to give him another chance.
Okay.
It happens real fast, and there is a lot of like background dialogue, almost like a narration, if you will. And I don't know if who's narrating at this point. I want to think it's Cap, but it talks in the third person a lot if it's Cap. So I'm not sure.
See, I thought it was interesting because it definitely played it off as like a bleed effect, what we've seen in like Doctor Strange and like the MCU movies. And that I thought was how they were connecting it because, you had these two deities of like, reforming Mars. And then Cap had these like visions in the beginning. And that's what led him and Tony to be like, we need like a better force, like, this is we need like a unified front, like, and it's very rare, at least for me being new to comics, just knowing their dynamic, for Tony to go to Cap and be like, I have this grandiose plan, and for Cap to just be like, yeah, do it.
Well, I think there's a little bit of like subconsciousness, like that. Cap knows something's happening. He doesn't know what, but he's got this feeling that heroes are needed. So like he's like, all right, balls to the wall, let's go. And then Tony literally
Yeah.
knows what's happening.
So
So
I wonder if that's Cap's, not wonder, but that's kind of Cap's like consciousness being like something happened with the Illuminati type of deal that is setting him towards this. I need to build a bigger and better team.
yeah, I'm sure he suspects something. There's no proof of it yet. And I think that's probably what will happen is we'll probably see Cap do some detective work and figure out that like he's missing memory. What am I missing? How do I figure that out? And he stumbles upon this plot. Will it be too late? I don't know, but not that Cap could really do anything. You know what I mean? Like if it's too late or not.
Yeah, it's the power of frisbee and righteousness.
Right. I mean, when the universe, well, when the multiverse is collapsing in on itself, quite literally, there's not much a guy with a frisbee can do.
Moral support.
Morals, moral supports. He can do that all day.
So I wonder how he's going to react to the Infinity Stones being gone as well.
I don't know. I mean, does he even remember that he like was a keeper of the stones at one point?
I don't
Because
know.
they must have erased all of the Illuminati stuff from his mind. I mean, it might happen. I mean, there. I mean,
I'm
just
actually going to lean towards that I think they did completely wipe him. Because there was plenty of opportunities in these 3 issues for him to make references or to call in help, but instead he reaches out to all of these different people for this threat and to go to Mars.
right,
Not
right.
once did he even think of like bringing in like, the intelligence and the power that is the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Curious to see what it would have been like if Cap was captured and not Iron Man. Who would he called in if it would have been the same people? Then again, there is a reference. Iron Man goes like, I thought we were going to call in everybody." And he's like, "Oh, I did," and that's when like the rest of them show up with Manifold.
You could also look at that as potentially Tony testing him because Tony's aware of what happened.
Right.
So he could just be, in his own narcissistic way, pushing the boundaries in that moment with the writing of how much does he remember? Like let me tap him a little bit and see what he remembers.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, that's literally how that character thinks. So, he's constantly doing those type of things, testing people. I mean, I think best example of that is in the MCU. He's when he first meets Bruce, he starts prodding him with the electric, and like trying to see what makes him tick, things like that.
It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I almost forgot about that scene. But it is one of my favorites, especially when he just like pokes him, he says "ow," and then he just stares at his eyes. Like, thank you for poking the nuclear reactor. Good job.
Yeah, right.
Let's see, I'm just gonna go back to this last issue, and I think our issues almost end with the enemies being on their side because of the universe, Captain Universe.
Can I say, I was incredibly surprised by that. I thought that this was going to lead into a huge, huge thing. And then for the universe showing up and saying, "All right, you guys gotta chill. You guys gotta chill out."
Yeah,
That really surprised me. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah.
literally
No, not at all.
obliterates the robot into 1,000 pieces.
Dude had it coming.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he was
does.
kind of a dick. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I thought the comic was a very interesting story up to this point. I think, it's gonna develop into something mind blowing. In my case, not being from a comic reader standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a very interesting scenario.
No, yeah, totally. I get what you're saying.
Is it going to touch more into like the universe's role and everything? Because Marvel has made no secret in playing with different deities and playing with different cultures. And then, they have the Watchers, they have the Eternals, they have universe. I didn't know the universe was an option for a character.
They have a lot. I mean, like certain beings in the Marvel universe can literally, like, you have the Living Tribunal, you have you have universe, you have death. Like, there are these ideas. They're literally like just figurative ideas that become literal things. And there's actually a dimension where these ideas go and they meet a deity of itself, and it gives them like a form, a physical form that they can then go into the multiverse and utilize. And then, let's say if the universe was destroyed, and the physical form was killed, they don't actually get destroyed. You can't kill the universe in that type of sense, you know. So they would then, like, literally go back to this alternate dimension, get another body, and come back. And the same things goes for Galactus. You can't kill Galactus. Galactus is this living force of nature.
Mhm.
And then that is the same idea. Now, I kind of want to. Unless, do you guys have extra points here? I have something I kind of want to touch on as like a wrap up point.
No, go for
No,
it.
please do. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think we've touched on some pretty good things, and it really is, like you were saying, it really is a big universe. So I am curious what you have to say.
Okay, so I'm going to read the last couple boxes from the thing. It says, and it and it was the first. It was the spark that started a fire, a legend that grew in the telling. The great idea was expansion, and it started with two men. One was life, and one was death. And then when they're referencing life and death, they're referencing Cap
Steve and
and
Iron Man.
respectively. What are your takes on that? And any predictions?
They've used that line before, and I've noticed that Marvel has, like, Nick Fury's famous thing, like, there was an idea, like, that's his big speech.
Right.
I think for the grand, like, for one of the greater symbolism things, it's, oh God, what's the word? Fascinating that they highlight the duality, but then they're also giving this overarching meaning of an idea is only as good as the ones behind it. Because you have Cap coming at it from one angle, Tony coming at it from one angle, the Illuminati having their own agenda. And how many people can you integrate into this great, pure idea before it collapses and falls in and of itself, even though it has the best of intentions?
Well, I mean, that being all the way true, as far as Iron Man has caused death on numerous accounts, even in the MCU when he created Ultron. You know what I mean? He has embodied death in a couple of different forms. And Steve, he has that righteousness that we were talking about earlier, being, you know, the preserver of life. You know what I mean? So,
No, I think you both are kind of hitting it on the head there, and I think it really comes down to what we were talking about before. Is like Iron Man's willing to sacrifice everybody's lives. He's literally willing to destroy another universe in order to protect his own. And Cap's not willing to make that sacrifice.
which
You know,
goes back to the new Avengers, basically what they were arguing at the table.
right? Exactly. So there is there is this idea to protect the things that they care about, to expand the Avengers, and what is the reasoning behind each of their agendas. Well, Cap's is to protect, and I believe Iron Man would want this expanded roster literally to try to destroy another universe, if had to. So that's what I think it comes down to, is like, yes, they have the same idea. Yes, they're both trying to expand the Avengers and bring in and make this Avengers world. However, they have totally different agendas, and I think that's, if we're thinking about literally what that line means, I think that what's Hickman is just saying, like, yes, they have the same idea to expand, but they are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, which I think we're going to see play out as we continue to go.
Definitely. I'm excited to continue reading, and I see what you mean. The stories do interconnect, even if not right away.
Yeah.
And, it all leads back to, I'm glad that we discuss it. Because on my own, I'm reading these issues, I thought to myself, like, okay, these are universal bleeds through two different things. Because if you went at it from that perspective, you can clearly see how Tony and Cap, and doing all the things that they were doing, it would have led into another incursion. It would have led into another issue, leading to a world being destroyed. Not, these are flashbacks, these are connected. Which is one of the things I really like about it, is I'm excited to see how this grows and evolves.
Yeah, me too.
Me
I
too.
I think it's going to pay off pretty well when we're done it. So next week, we are continuing with the Avengers line. We're going to read 4 through 6.
Great.
So I just want to thank everybody for listening. Please subscribe and like if you're enjoying it. Again, I'm Ian,
I'm Al.
I'm Shane.
and this was Comic Book Wednesdays. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hey!
Good night, y'all.